Graham Smith, 18.
Hank Robbins, 18.
Walker, 18.
Mike, 20.
Brody, 18.
Today, I will be discussing the reasons for seatbelts. Today, I'm going to start off with two stories shared by two different individuals. The first one is a worried mother that is lucky to still have her daughter. The story starts off at last December, when she was driving home from work, and as she got closer to home, the more slippery the roads became. After nearly sliding past her driveway, she managed to arrive safely. Because her daughter would soon be leaving work, she texted her a warning about the roads and asked her to be careful. She replied she would. In typical mother fashion, the mother watched for her arrival, which seemed to take forever. Then her phone rang. It was her daughter. She flipped her car. After a deep breath, she asked if she was okay. Yes, said the daughter. She said, I had my seatbelt on and I am fine. The mother was very thankful that her daughter wore her seatbelt. While her car was a total loss, the seatbelt saved the daughter from injury or worse. Next story is about how a young driver who recently got their license died because they weren't wearing their seatbelt. The story starts off in January. A young driver just recently licensed stopped on the way to school to pick up a classmate. As they continued on, she hit a patch of black ice. She lost control of the car and hit a tree. While her passenger was wearing a seatbelt and she was fine, the driver wasn't wearing hers. She was ejected from the car and died of her serious injuries. Her parents will always wonder why she didn't wear her seatbelt. Did she never know? The young driver could have easily saved her life, like the passenger, by wearing her seatbelt. Statistics show that seatbelts save lives. When used correctly, wearing a seatbelt reduces the risk of fatal injury to front seat passenger car occupants by 45%, and risk of moderate to critical injury by 50%. For those riding in the rear of vans and sport utility vehicles during a car crash. Rear seatbelts are 73% better at preventing fatalities. Keep in mind that victims are not properly restrained in more than 1.5% of all fatal car accidents. Also, children are likely to be buckled up 92% of the time when adults in the car use seatbelts, as opposed to 72% of the time when adults are not using them. The national usage rate for seatbelts were 89.6%, an 11% increase from 2014. An estimated 14,955 lives were saved by seatbelts nationwide in 2017. 2,549 additional lives would have been saved in 2017 if everyone had buckled up. 47% of passenger vehicle occupants killed in 2017 were not wearing seatbelts. Seatbelts are useful in preventing you from hitting the windshield, preventing you from being thrown from the vehicle, preventing you from banging around the vehicle and hitting the steering wheel, door, or worse. Even women who are pregnant are more protected when they're wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelts are the best defense against road hazards, aggressive drivers, distracted drivers, and impaired drivers, as all of these road conditions and reckless drivers can end up taking your life. Motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death in the first 3 decades of Americans' lives. In 2009 alone, crashes killed over 33,000 people and injured another 2.2 million. More than 70% of these were in passenger vehicles and trucks. More than half of the people killed in car crashes were not restrained at the time of the crash. Wearing a seatbelt is the most effective way to prevent death and serious injury in a crash. Most drivers and passengers killed in crashes are unrestrained. 53% of drivers and passengers killed in car crashes in 2009 were not wearing restraints. Seatbelts dramatically reduce the risk of death and serious injury among drivers and front seat passengers. Seatbelts reduce the risk of death by 45% and cut the risk of serious injury by 50%. Seatbelts prevent drivers and passengers from being ejected during a crash. People not wearing a seatbelt are 30 times more likely to be ejected from the vehicle during a crash. More than 3 out of 4 people who are ejected during a fatal crash die from their injuries. So seatbelts save thousands. And what do seatbelts do? Well, seatbelts are used to help prevent serious injuries or even death, as you can be thrown through a windshield or thrown through a window depending on the type of wreck. Great way to prevent this would be to wear your seatbelt. And then there's just some statistics showing like the use of seatbelts and how they can save your life. And then things we want to prevent is you being thrown through the windshield or hitting your head against the steering wheel. And without a seatbelt, you could hit the steering wheel. And with a seatbelt, you wouldn't be able to because it would prevent you from hitting the steering wheel. And then the last picture is a guy being thrown through the windshield as he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. Thank you.
Thank you.